Carl.
Okay.
If you know that reference.
We are best friends.
You get bonus points.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Feast or Famine with the Youngs.
We are the Youngs.
We are just the Youngs today. It's been a bit since we've had a podcast of just us.
It's been a couple, but not that many.
Yeah.
I feel like every couple we have it just the two of us.
So when it's just us, this will always be the I don't know what I'm doing podcast. But when we have a guest, they make us feel like we have a purpose. So those aren't the I don't know what I'm doing podcasts.
Do we not have a purpose right now?
We do have a purpose, but like we know what we're doing. But here, like we don't know.
Purpose when we have a guest.
We don't know what we're doing. Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing when we had guests. I just don't have to talk as much.
Yeah, which is nice. Yeah. So, what have we been up to, babe? You want to give them like a little insight on where we've been, what we've been doing?
Shooting weddings.
We have been shooting weddings. Story of our life.
What else have we been doing?
I'm trying to think.
Went to Luke Combs concert.
We went to the Luke Combs concert. It was freaking incredible. Oh my God, it was incredible.
By the time this one airs. By the time this one goes up, we might have gone to Morgan Wallen.
Probably. One of the girls at Renew Med Spa that I go to, she was also at the Luke Combs concert. And when I saw her today, she was like, what did you think of everything? And I was like, it was so good. Like, we had such a great time. And then she brought it up I don't know if you heard the conversation that we were having, about Riley Green. Oh. She brought it up. She was like, are you obsessed with Riley Green now? And I'm like, yes. I did not know.
We need to lower this.
I did not know who he was before the concert. And when he came out on stage, I was like, wow. And so I immediately like looked him up and I was like, oh, he actually has like really good music.
This is going to be the Veronica and Duckman podcast soon.
And Carl.
She's going to fire me.
Carl is his dog.
Carl.
Okay.
If you know that reference.
We are best friends.
You get bonus points. Carl.
How about this? If Alex will pull this and we'll put a short up or a reel on Instagram. Mm-hmm. The first person to DM me what this is from gets a $10 Starbucks gift card.
Dope.
Carl.
But that's all we're going to say.
Okay.
You got to know from there.
Yep.
I'm sure somebody's going to
enter to win. I'm serious as hell. I'll give you $10 Starbucks.
Okay.
Giveaway.
Get people to listen.
That's not what I'm doing. But I'm just interested to know how many people know what that's from.
As soon as you said his dog's name was Carl, that's the only thing that was stuck in my head.
Same. And every time I say it, I have to actually say Carl because it's only appropriate. Yeah. And I wonder if Riley Green does that too.
Maybe. Do you think he knows about that?
I don't know. I'll have to look up how old he is because it depends on that.
I think he's like in his
Let's look it up
late 30s, maybe 40s.
Let's look it up real quick.
Ask Siri.
No, don't. Just
mess here.
How old
is Riley Green?
34. Ha, beat you.
He's younger than me.
So I'm younger than you too, and I know what it's from.
He's almost my age, so.
It does make me feel better that he's older than me, though.
It makes me feel better that he's younger than me, because.
Only not by much,
he
though.
looks older than me.
I think that you guys look about the same age, which you are. You're 35, he's
34. He looks like he's almost 40.
I do not think that that's accurate at all.
He is absolutely in really good shape.
Have you looked at his Instagram?
Not really.
I've looked a lot.
I'm sure. You know this podcast is with your husband, right?
I love you. But he does not look like he's 40. Not at all.
I swore he was older than me.
No.
Which made me feel good about, how I'm aging.
But you
I
also
feel like I'm aging well.
You would age even better if you would listen to me about your skincare routine.
Well, give me Riley Green money.
Oh my gosh, you don't need Riley Green money to have good skin.
It helps.
I have good skin and I don't have that money.
But it helps.
If you would just listen.
I'm listening.
Oh, geez. Here we go. Okay. What are we talking about today? Let's get into it.
Something.
This podcast topic is actually quite meaningful, even though the first 10 minutes have been just absolute nonsense.
It's true. And we've actually done this topic before.
We have done this topic before.
It's a repeat.
It's a repeat.
It's a repeat. I'm trying to, my country music career is going to take off next.
Oh my gosh. She sounds like Lainey Wilson. She has a thick accent.
I sound like Lainey Wilson?
No, you don't. But if you did, maybe we would make a lot of money. But anyway, I had something happen recently that, and I say this every single time I say something like this, but I had something happen recently that, puts things into perspective for me as far as what we do for our job. And it happens more often than I'd like,
And prefaces to say that it doesn't take these things for us to know that this is...
Correct. Like, this stuff happens all the time. And it, like you said, it doesn't take something like this happening to be like, oh, this is why I do what I do.
We go into our wedding days knowing that this is probably going to happen at some point.
Yeah, which we'll go into that. But, so I did an engagement session for a couple that is getting married later this year. And first off, I loved that she wanted to do the engagement session in a location that was meaningful to her. Mm-hmm. It was at her grandparents' house, beautiful home, beautiful backyard. Like, she couldn't have picked like a better location with it being unique, and personal and just absolutely stunning, for photos. So her grandparents were there. They were hanging out. And we did the session. Session was great. And then right before I left, we were all in the sunroom and I was like, hey, let's just take a real quick photo. And at first, the couple was like, oh, you don't have to do that. Like, it's not a big deal. And I was like, 2 seconds, like, not a big deal at all. We're all here. You might as well, remember this moment that your grandparents were here for your engagement session, did it in their backyard. Like, let's just take a photo. Not a big deal. I did know that her grandfather had dementia. But it wasn't in the forefront of my mind.
Was he having a good day though? I mean, that's probably why.
He looked fine. Like, he looked fine. He was very quiet. Didn't really say anything at all. He said hi to me. That was about it. But took the photo, went on my way. I think maybe a week and a half later. 2 weeks.
That's a little more than that.
Maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe. Not long at all.
It was within 2 weeks because I had just delivered the gallery, and that's my turnaround is 2 weeks.
From engagement sessions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She sent me an email and she just thanked me. She was like, hey, I just want to thank you for taking that photo of my grandparents. She's like, at the time, didn't really think it was that big of a deal. I did have a fleeting thought that it could be the last photo with my grandfather. And it turns out that it was. He had passed away like a few days prior to the email she sent. And their wedding is it's this fall. I want to say it's October, I think. But I was able to capture that photo with them all together. And that's not going to happen on the wedding day now,
Right.
And I read that and I just completely sobbed at my desk. It was, oh God, I don't want to get choked up. It was just, I felt just very sad for her. And I was just like, wow, thank God I freaking took that photo. Like, I didn't think much of it. I think stuff like that for me at this time in my career just comes second nature.
Do you think I was gonna ask that. Do you think had that session been 5 years ago, would you have gotten that photo?
That's hard to say. I mean,
would you have thought to get that photo? 6 years, 7 years, when you're first starting out, would you have thought about that? Probably not,
to be honest. I knew that right when I started this career, I knew, and that's why I decided that I wanted to do it. I knew that it was an impactful opportunity for me to create things for people to have forever. And the fact that we talk about this all the time, the fact that people just don't live forever. Photography is a great way, obviously, and so is video, to encapsulate those memories and people, because nobody lives forever. So I don't know if I would have, thought to do it 5 years ago. But even like, I mean, I'm thinking now when people like bring their dogs for engagement sessions and like, even if it's like a friend, like I always take like a second to like turn around and capture like what's happening behind me. When we were in Chicago for an engagement session and Alexis's mom was there with the dog and she was sitting on the beach quote unquote in Chicago, with the dog. And I just like took a picture of her with the dog, cause she was handling him. And I think that those are the moments that people don't realize are like super important. And those are like the ones that you're not there to capture that.
And they're not super important until they are. Yeah. But you don't realize they're important until they are. So if they weren't captured, then you don't have them. They can't be important. Yeah. And so the whole moral of this is just how impactful our job really is. I think you've said this before. Sometimes people are like, oh, you're a wedding photographer. They see it as a hobby. I just saw a post recently about somebody. Most industry people wouldn't book these people anyway. It was something along the lines of, we know what we want. We're only paying this amount per hour, which was stupid low. We pay our second shooters more than this. Ooh. And it's like, I'm not paying more than this for something that's basically equates to a hobby.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a screenshot of a post. Yeah. It wasn't an actual post, but those kind of things go around in the groups. But there are people like that think about it like that. Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, we've had more times than I can count where we've done a wedding and we get an email, a couple weeks ago or a couple weeks after the wedding, and it's like, hey, I know gallery's not ready yet, but can you send me a couple pictures of so-and-so? They've passed away. Or
even like a couple years later, like we had a 2020 couple her mom just passed away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or 2018 couple.
Yeah.
Whose grandpa passed away last year.
Yeah. And I think part of like our process when you're working with us is, and a lot of, let me step back a little bit. A lot of this stems from my own personal experience, right, with my dad. Unexpected losses and just really understanding and knowing how important what we do can be if you're intentional about it.
Well, right. And I think it hits us more because we're in that boat of the fact that we didn't prioritize.
Correct.
So then we ultimately missed out. So we don't want people to feel like we do when those things happen.
Right. Right. I mean, I think it comes with experience in this job field. Job field, is that redundant?
Is it job field?
Career field?
Career field?
I don't know. I think it comes with experience in this industry and with doing this over and over and over again to anticipate the moments that are the ones
that are ultimately more important because
right. Thank you.
They're both more important because of what's going to happen in the future, but also they're not as important as it pertains to the day itself. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but they
are important, but like at the grassroots of a wedding, it's about the couple.
Yeah. I mean, think about it in like just a very simple way of, we have cameras on our phones and we take photos of literally everything. Why is that? Because you want to remember it, because you want to know what that looked like, or you want to reference something, or whatever the case might be. It's always to either go back and look at it, and going back being the main point there, or to just remember it. That's the whole point. Even if you're out to lunch with a friend and you take a photo of your taco or your pizza or whatever, you want to remember how good that pizza was or that taco was. You want to remember who you were with, and maybe it's sunny and there's no no clouds in the sky. You just want to remember what it felt like.
Well, right. And like on Facebook, I'm seeing this a lot more recently, and it's people that are taking a picture and posting, and literally the caption is, posting this just so I can look back on it later.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole
Literally
point.
The only reason you're posting that is so you can look back on it later.
Yeah. So when you really think about that being a very simple, fleeting thought, I feel like for some people, and you apply it to the moments and the opportunities. And I say opportunity because not just everyone can do what we do and have good intention behind it. And apply it to what we're photographing adds so much more weight and value. And it's just really important.
I just thought of another example. Like, I mean, the moment itself was something that probably would have been captured by just about anybody, but the impact of that moment made us capture it probably far more than we maybe should have.
Oh, I don't know what you're going to say.
Larissa's grandparents on the anniversary dance.
Oh, yes.
He's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He can't really walk by himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like it's his kids, her parents, literally stood around him and held him up so he could dance with his wife. Yeah. And that's probably the last time they're ever going to dance together.
Yeah. And I actually remember photographing that and having that thought that this very well could be the very last moment that they ever dance together. Freaking A. I cannot. I have to suck it up. And yeah, I mean, I feel like what we do has a huge impact on not just the couple. Like, obviously we're there photographing the couple, we're capturing their wedding day. That's important. But there's all these other things that go into that day that make it overall, you're also about to tear up, I can see it, that make it overall so important. I was just having a meeting with like a potential bride a couple weeks ago, and I told her, I was like, we have like a bit of a different philosophy on how we approach wedding days. And she was like, I would love to hear about that. And I was like, we obviously are there to serve you. Like, you're my client, you and your potential spouse, like, you guys are our clients. But we also want to make sure that we're making everybody else who is important to you and super close to you, like your parents, your siblings, grandparents, it's also a very important day for them. Mm-hmm. And they should feel like they're being taken care of and captured just as much as you are, which is why we do our due diligence and have second shooters and things like that, because we can't be in multiple places at once. But there's so many intricacies that go into a wedding day than just the marriage itself. And that might be an unpopular opinion.
No, I don't think it is, because I don't remember if it was Joyce or Maureen or Kate, one of the planners we've had on here recently has said something about the wedding day itself isn't just about the couple, because you wouldn't be having all these people and putting all this effort into creating this party, basically. It's about the experience that the guests are going to have. You're creating an experience for the guests to help celebrate your wedding with you.
Yeah.
So the experience with the guests also includes those family members all the family members, really.
Yeah.
But we also take a special consideration for the ones that are older, because just in general, that's one of the things that we have to think about.
It's just life. On the happier side of things, I don't want this to be like a super sad podcast, but on the happier side of things, on the same level of high impact, I've also captured. Are you tired?
Mm-hmm. I just yawned.
You just yawned.
I just yawned.
On the happier side of things, I've also captured babies' first steps before, which is so epic, I feel like. How often, I feel like now it's probably a lot easier because of cell phones.
Cameras on you.
Yeah, but like before, like, I'll just say me. I was going to say your age, but
I don't know if my parents have video of me walking for the first time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, our age, me and you, like when we were babies, how likely is it that our parents got a photo of our first steps or a video? Probably pretty unlikely.
My parents had one of those big like VHS recorders, so they were recording all the time. So it very well could be there.
It could be, but it's not super likely, right? Like,
Maybe. I think I you know what? I'm kind of curious now.
Well, you'll have to ask your mom.
I mean, we have the box of stuff at home.
Actually, you were supposed to get those digitized.
Joe's been working on other things.
Yeah.
So
your mom's going to hear this and be like, Alex.
This will be the test if she actually listens to this.
Yeah. But anyway, I've captured that. I'm trying to think of, just in general of like newborn photos and things like that. When you're having a wedding, are you okay?
We just had lunch.
And now you have the itis?
Yeah. I'm hitting the wall.
Get it together. When you have a wedding, I would say maybe 3 and 5, like every 3 and 5 weddings. Does that make sense?
3 to 5 weddings?
3 to 5 weddings, yeah. There's always photos of the bride and the groom or the couple with their baby photos. So...
yeah, sort of.
I've seen it a lot.
Like that we've shot?
Yeah.
That we've shot?
Yeah.
Like where are the baby photos?
Like sometimes they have them side by side, or like they'll have a slideshow and like they're in the slideshow or something like that.
Okay. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. But like
when they have pictures on the table sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you want to capture your infant. Like you want to remember how tiny their fingers were and like what they looked like when they were a baby. And like, that's super important. It's just as important in my opinion than your wedding day. So when I'm doing newborn photos, I want to make sure that I can capture those memories for new parents, because not only have you just created a human, but now we're capturing a completely different milestone in your life as well, and what that looks like.
That's why we love doing those for our wedding clients.
Yeah.
Then we do newborn, and then we do second child.
Yeah.
And then we do whatever, like they bought a house.
Yeah, I just did a maternity session for one of our past clients, and she was like, I didn't even know if you did maternity and newborn. And I was like, I don't, unless it's one of my past clients, or it's a referral from.
If we did your wedding, don't assume we don't.
Just ask.
Just ask, because we will.
Yeah, we will I mean, that is honestly one of the biggest compliments and one of the biggest honors that I could even be given, is just to continue to help you capture your legacy and everything that you're building for your life. That's so important and so special.
When you were young, well...
It's okay. Go ahead.
I'll rephrase this.
Okay.
So I was going to say, like, going back to, like, our parents. Mm-hmm. This doesn't really work for your parents.
I know.
My parents have a wedding album.
Yeah.
I think like 3 of them.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those ones you literally would print a 4x6 picture and slide it into the book.
Yeah.
Heather used to look at those all the time.
Yeah.
You've looked at them.
I've looked at them semi-recently.
Well, we did their 40th anniversary. That's another thing. We did their 40th anniversary surprise party, and you were looking at things to kind of get inspiration on the party itself. Mm-hmm. We wanted to redo that Jeep picture, but that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But
maybe for the next one.
That'd be 41.
That's okay.
That's all right. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Looking through a wedding album?
Yeah, but like, I don't remember the last time I even looked through those, but when you looked through them last, how many like types of shots did you see of like family members in that capacity that you just mentioned earlier?
None.
Because it wasn't really...
Back then...
It wasn't like at the forefront of...
Well, back then, I think photography was a completely different, like, I don't even know how to say that. I think it was a completely different, like, obviously style, but like, which is actually coming back, but I digress. The approach and everything was different because they had lights on the stand and they had to like hold the trigger and then for the light and then hit the film. I think that it was just a lot different. Any type of like older, like photos like that from your mom and your like I looked at your grandma's recently too. It's all just standing in a line, smiling at the camera, even like cake cutting, like it's all very formal, I think is just kind of the approach. Obviously it's changed now.
So basically digital photography not even talking about video, but digital photography has made it easier to capture.
Absolutely.
Those moments.
Yeah.
Because you're not having to worry about how much film you have left, making sure everything's still because you don't want motion blur.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure you have enough film to capture something. You don't want to miss something while you're changing out film.
Which is really interesting that you say that, like, you don't want motion blur. And now I think
you do, but it needs to be intentional. And I have said this probably 3 podcasts now.
I know, yeah. I think there's a fun, like, stylistic approach to a motion blur photo. It adds, like, some type of epicness that even my heart cannot contain. I freaking die over a black and white motion photo.
It makes motion. It shows the motion.
It shows, yeah. It shows like the energy of what that moment is, and so, like you said, it totally has to make sense. But I think now what I'm saying is, now people gravitate to trying to get motion blur in their photos because I would say it's harder if you're a newer photographer.
It's harder to do it intentionally.
It's harder to do it intentionally. But because the cameras and technology is so good, or, you know, whatever. But now you strive for getting that emotion out of the photo, which is back then, like, your mom didn't even smile in her wedding photo. I asked her, I was like, were you happy? Like, how did you feel that day?
She didn't like her smile.
I know she didn't. Yeah. But still, like, not a lot of people even smiled in photos in general. So it's just very interesting. It's very interesting.
She also doesn't like being center of attention.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. But
this is going to be a short podcast, I think.
It might be, but the whole general topic is just like how impactful our job is. I think you can talk about this a little bit. There was a wedding video that won an award, rightfully so.
It did? Oh.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Not our wedding.
Not our wedding.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
It was from Blink Films. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put the link for it in the comments. I think I did this last time.
You might, yeah. This is a really good example of I feel like we kind of have a good idea of like a good way of putting it into perspective. But this is a really good example that Alex is about to tell.
I mean, I don't want to say we're not capable of doing it because we haven't been in this kind of situation to do it.
Right.
But it's nice to know that there are other people out there that take this as seriously as this is.
As we do.
I have always said that I think wedding films over 10 minutes are boring. Mm-hmm. That's just how I feel, and most people won't really watch them. So I got sent this link last year, the year before last.
It might be 2 years ago.
Because it won the award last March. Mm-hmm. It won Best Wedding Film for the year. Like, it's like a world, people from all the world submit stuff for this. And I saw that it was 17 minutes long. My first thought was, I do not want to watch this whole thing. 17
minutes, that's a long film.
So I started watching it, and then I started grasping what actually the story was about. Mm-hmm. Not just about this wedding. So this mom, was it cancer or something?
I think so.
The mom of one of either the bride or the groom, I don't remember which, passed away just weeks before the wedding. So I assume they were already going to have a destination wedding, but they went forward and still did it. And they did some memorial things for mom. But this videographer dug in and got home footage to incorporate mom into the footage. Mm-hmm. She documented people talking about mom. Mm-hmm. Like, she literally told the story perfectly.
Yeah.
And didn't pull away from the wedding either.
Right.
And there was a point where they're doing some memorial thing on the beach, and you look out and there's dolphins in the distance.
And there was something,
and that's just wild.
Well, there was something with the connection with mom and dolphins. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they had already established earlier on in the film that there was some type of personal connection between their mom and dolphins or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then later in the film, there are dolphins like out in the ocean, close enough from the shore that you can see them.
Right.
And they're like on the beach during the wedding day or something. And that was like a God moment for sure.
But yeah, anyway, without like diving too deep, but like that is an example not of taking our job seriously to the point of capturing on the wedding day those people, but incorporating, because sometimes this stuff happens before the wedding day, and it sucks and it's unfortunate, but that just makes our job even more important.
I feel like, there's a lot of different angles that you can look at it from. Obviously, in this, I was going to talk about this. We go into a wedding day with a certain mindset. And this is one of those mindsets. Like we know and anticipate when things are going to happen. We understand that, we might have frustrations and things that happen to us throughout the day. Whether they're work related or personal or, whatever the case might be. But, we intentionally and mindfully put that aside, and focus on everything in front of us and what we actually are doing that day. Because I feel like when we have an approach that is with the best of intentions, our work shows for that as well.
Oh, absolutely. You can always tell if somebody is frustrated on a wedding day when their work is lacking something. And
there's that whole thing, like actually going into the wedding day, but then even like for you, because you have to sit down and you quite literally create and tell that story as the editor and the creator of their wedding films. So that's a whole different dynamic.
I mean, I did a wedding film. We did the wedding. That they didn't tell us this was going to happen until the day of. But the bride's sister had passed away from cancer 6 months prior to the wedding. They knew it was going to happen. I mean, they were expecting it. But they
were expecting it so much, the fact that the sister even wrote a letter.
She was the maid of honor. So she wrote her speech and a letter to be read on her sister's wedding day, knowing that she would not be there.
Yeah. Which is,
that was,
jeez.
Yeah. I did 2 edits of that film.
Yeah.
Because yes, it was a huge part of the day, but like that was difficult. So that was probably one of the harder edits that I had to deal with, because you want to tell that story, but you don't want it to be so sad.
Yeah.
So there's like an ebb and flow to telling that story.
Right.
But the fact that we captured that speech and have all of that for them is great.
Yeah. So I think, this is like a short podcast. I don't want it to be like a sad podcast. I think if you take anything away from this, or if you're listening to this, like obviously there's been a lot of like solemn topics with this, but in general, what we get to do is so important, so impactful, and
we don't take it lightly when somebody hires us to shoot their wedding, because we understand what that actually means. Yeah.
We don't take it. And I want to encourage you guys, if you are a photographer or videographer, either just starting out, or even if you're seasoned, and you just need like a gentle reminder, it's not something that should ever be taken lightly at all.
No. And like, if you're looking for a photographer or videographer, do your due diligence. And like, if you're getting vibes that they might not capture something that way, either address it with them or look somewhere else. And one of the things like that's a really good indicator is how they, and we could do another topic on this too, is how they approach family formals.
Yeah.
We've done videos on this too, but like if there's a photographer that is just like, seems extremely annoyed about family formals or whatever, doesn't take them as seriously as you want them to be, maybe have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Because if they're like that with family formals, you have to ask yourself if they're going to be there able to capture intentionally those other things with people that you want documented as well.
I think
that's going to sound like shots fired.
It is shots fired, but I'm going to go ahead and just add this on. We did a wedding recently, and I'm not even going to say what vendor it was, but there was a vendor that was talking to me about family formals, and they made the comment, they're not even that important. And I was shocked to my core. I was shocked that someone in the industry said that to me. to me as a photographer, for one. I just was like, there are so many important moments throughout a wedding day. Like I'd really have to sit down and think about it. I don't know if, there are ones that are more important than others. I can't say for certain if there's ones that I think that just aren't important, because I think they're kind of all important.
They're all important for their own ways.
But family formals to me are absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of photographers bitch and moan about them because they're not creative. They're not fun to do. They're wrangling a whole bunch of people that don't want to be in a photo. I understand it.
It's just like,
I get it, but like, these are so important. And especially from, weddings are sometimes occasions where family members that you have maybe from like across the state or across the world that you don't see very often are here, and you have the opportunity to take a photo with them. I mean, there's just so many things. Like generational photos is another one that I think are so fun and important to incorporate in family formals if you can. I could go on.
So like a photographer or videographer that talks about like capturing your legacy or creating your legacy, but
which then we do,
turns around and says, and doesn't like family formals, needs to look at the branding, because there's a brand gap. Because if you are saying that you capture a legacy, but you're not wanting to capture the depth of what that legacy is, then your brand is a lie. And I hate to say it that way, but
yeah. No, you're right.
You had that, I think
I think that we have also had clients that are like very just go with the flow. Like they're not really interested in, doing the things that like we strive for, which is like creating connections and like things like that. Like we have had clients that are just like, I just want you to come and do your job, do it really well. And then like, that's all we need and we're good.
That is how we do our job really well though.
That's what I was going to say. And some photographers have that approach that like, I'm being hired, I'm just going to do my job, do the damn thing, and then go home. And for me, even if I have a client that doesn't have like those values of like capturing those moments that are, typically not seen, or like, just starting to build that legacy, if those aren't something that I'm hearing from the client that are important, I'm going to do my due diligence, because that's what fills up my cup. I'm going to capture that day the way that I know that it should be, whether you want it to be or not, whether you want me to just come in, get the shot and go home. I know that I'm still doing a good job and I'm doing my due diligence by capturing the way that it needs to be captured.
Right. And really
and the reason why
there are going to be people like that.
I was going to say, the reason why I say that is because there are people like that.
That say, I just want you to come in and take pictures of us and that's it. Nothing. Yeah. It's nothing crazy. But on the same coin, there are people that have that same idea and like, video is not that important. And then you end up in a situation where, oh, I wish I had that.
That was us, literally.
And it doesn't necessarily have to just be, oh, I wish I had photos or I wish I had video of your dad that passed away. It could be as simple as, I wish I had our best man speech.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Yeah, I wonder if Matt has it written down still.
I don't think he wrote it down.
Oh, he probably did. Knowing Matt, no,
probably He probably did not write it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I wanted to revisit this topic because I think it's one that honestly isn't talked about enough.
It's not.
And I always am like the one to just like jump on Instagram and share a message like this, or I don't know. I think that sometimes with everything that we see on social media and like also just being an entrepreneur, there are so many things that go into our job than just photographing weddings that sometimes it's easily not forgotten about, but just set aside. And we get wrapped up in like taxes or like what's the next best thing, pricing, branding, like.
Or the basics of like, even when it comes to shooting a wedding or somebody hiring you to shoot their wedding, they only want to talk about the positives and the happy side, because weddings are happy.
Weddings are so happy, and that's why we love it.
Nobody wants to address that there are aspects that are serious, and you have to be mindful of those things, and that's what we're talking about, those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like that is ultimately why we love this career, is because we just get to attend epic parties and be around joy all of the time. But with that, like you said, comes the serious factor of things to look for in the future. And what we're doing on that day can have a huge impact on certain situations in the future.
Right. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because the sun's doing the same thing it does all the time.
I know.
I thought we got away from that today.
I know.
And we did not. So I'm literally a washed out blob.
It's okay. We got too excited about it. About being overcast. It looked like it was going to rain for a hot second.
I would not be mad if it rained, to be honest.
No, me either. Okay. I guess that's it, though.
Yeah. I think that was a good one.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it's not too heavy for y'all.
If you're in the industry, share this because people need to address this more.
I think so.
I think it honestly needs to be up there with one of the top 5 things to talk about when you're hiring a wedding photographer, videographer.
Yeah.
Is that not only are they capturing your day, but you're capturing the people that are there for your day.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And there's a lot of pressure that goes into it. So you need to hire somebody that is able to carry that pressure and what's the word I'm looking for? Produce. Fulfill those needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lots of hats being worn on a wedding day too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess that's it. Hopefully you guys like this.
If not, we're sorry.
If not, we sorry. Go to the next one. Next. That's it for now, though. Yeah. Any final thoughts on that?
Nope.
No.
I got nothing.
Okay.
I'm tapped out.
Well, we have another one that we have to film.
I hate the sad topics, but I mean
This is a sad, but it doesn't have to be just sad though. Like.
I know. It's important.
And you don't always have to it's not like everybody dies. Everybody
does die.
But people are also born, and those are the moments that are important too. Not to delve back into this, but on our wedding day, I love the pictures of me and Spencer. He was a baby and now he's 10.
And Heather was pregnant with Jensen and didn't even know it.
But there's all kinds of aspects of life that are so important to capture that are taking place on wedding days. And that's ultimately what our job is.
I think it's a good way to end it.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, comment below.
If you're on the audio one, we've been meaning to say this. Leave us a review.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have a lot of those, and we need to get more of those. Leave us a review.
We would love a review. Only if you have good things to say.
Reviews are what help push this podcast, so leave some reviews. Yeah, we would really, really appreciate that. For sure. So, all right, guys. We will catch you on the next one. Peace. Never knowing what tomorrow